Welcome to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. How often do you say no to opportunities because you feel unprepared or afraid? And have you ever said yes before feeling ready? What happened next? And how do you decide when an opportunity is worth the risk? Today's show is all about embracing opportunities and stepping confidently into the unknown. I'm joined by Alyssa Barry, President of Alliance Advisors Investor Relations. Alyssa, welcome to Empowered. So great to have you here today.
Hi, Elizabeth. Great to see you. Thanks for having me.
So, what did you want to be when you grew up, and how close did you get?
Oh, the million-dollar question. When I was younger, I wanted to be a writer. I actually applied to a lot of journalism schools at a university. When I was 14 years old, I saw a job posting for a concert review writer with the local paper. I loved music and I loved to write. And I thought this was a really great way to get access to free concerts. I was 14. I couldn't drive. So my dad drove me downtown Vancouver to be able to attend these events that I was ultimately writing the concert reviews for. I got the job. I had to, the same way that an adult would have applied for that job, I went through that same application process. And I used to collect my assignments via dial up. So I would, through dial up internet, they would tell me which concert I was going to, and I'd have to submit and type in my assignments before I went to school the next day. So I really wanted that whole almost famous dream where you're on the road with Rolling Stone magazine. While I'm not a concert review writer today, I write professionally as a career. I do investor relations, but I help companies tell their stories. And I've got companies from amazing real estate companies to the next innovation in AI. It's quite the gamut in between. So I got really close, really close to what I was aiming for.
So, the concept of this show is educational. So, what was your very first job, and what did it teach you?
So I guess I've had a lot of first jobs, but the real first job was I worked in a kitchen for a catering company, and I had an amazing chef. If anyone's ever worked in a kitchen type of environment, who really taught us responsibility, accountability. He was always demonstrating to us and taking the time to show us what he was doing, and also participate in all the cleanup. That hustle, that blitz, again, if anyone's ever been in that restaurant or kitchen environment, I really learned a lot of hustle, resourcefulness. I had no idea what I was doing most of the time, and it really taught me a lot about just having a really great attitude and just going with the flow.
I love the fact that you said you didn't really know what you were doing, because there's so many times where we don't know what we're doing. However, 4 years ago, you started your own business. Was there a moment, that your aha moment, when you realized you were officially in business?
It actually took about 6 months. We launched the business in the summer, my business partner and I, and the first real moment was actually our holiday party where we didn't have a lot of money. My business partner and I were a startup, but we felt it was really important to bring our teams together and to invite their spouses as well. And in that room, when I looked around to 20 team members and their spouses, so 40 people, I went, "Oh my goodness, I'm responsible for all of these people." And that was really the first aha moment for me, just feeling that um, pressure of not only am I responsible for running this business, but these people have chosen their careers and chosen to work with me, and it was both a delightful moment, but also one that was a pretty scary moment as well.
Of course it is. We've got less than a minute to commercial break, but I still want to ask you this question, and we can continue on when we return, because the whole show today is about saying yes. So, what was the first opportunity you said yes to that actually changed everything?
I was in the office for my first grown-up job. So after I moved on from my catering career, that was very short-lived, I worked for a publicly traded company. I had an entry-level job. And my boss walked in the office and said, "I've got something that I'd like your help with." And I said yes, and I'll elaborate on that a little bit more in just a moment.
Okay, so when we come back from the commercial break, we will hear the rest of your story. But I think it's important to tell people that, it's important to say yes, even if you're unprepared, because you need to put yourself out there and experience it. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. Today's episode, just say yes to opportunity. So before we went to break, I had asked you, what was the first opportunity you said yes to that changed everything?
There's those defining moments in your life, and I can count on one hand those particular moments. And this was really, truly one of them that shaped, I think, my entire career. I was working for a very high performing CEO of a publicly traded company, and he came into my office on a Friday afternoon and he said, Alyssa, we need some help with our board meeting this weekend. I need someone to take meeting minutes. And it was going to happen over a weekend. I think I probably had tickets to a Coldplay concert or something cool that I was doing with my friends at that point. But I said yes. And, I really saw it as an opportunity more than it was an administrative role of coming in and taking minutes to be in the boardroom of a publicly traded company and watching this board during their strategy session over a weekend. I thought this is such a great opportunity. Well, come Monday, my boss brought me into his office and he said, Alyssa, what did you think of the meeting? And by the end of the week, it was, Alyssa, let's go on the road together. I need you at this meeting. Come here with me. And I became his right hand for almost 15 years. And if I hadn't taken that opportunity or hadn't said yes, I honestly, truly don't know where I would be today.
And, I think that's really, really important because it changed your life. And typically, when people ask me to do things, especially years ago, I would say yes. And then I would panic and think, why did I say yes? Why did I put myself in this situation? Oh, well, let me just go and I'll make it happen. And that's pretty much what I've done my entire life as well. And, it's pretty good. It's worked out. So my next question to you is, have you ever said yes before you felt ready? Which is yes. This is
Oh,
exactly what you did.
I both personally and professionally, I said yes to getting married probably before I was ready. I said yes to starting my own business probably before I was ready. I've said yes to a lot of opportunities along the way. I'm very blessed to have four beautiful children. Probably said yes to having kids before I was ready. There's a lot of things, and I think sometimes you just have to know that things are going to work out.
I always find that when something bad happens to me, a positive door opens. And I'd like to think that, if you are ready for the next thing to happen, this is what will happen in your life. But how do you know when an opportunity is actually worth the risk?
I think as long as you're growing and stretching and it aligns with your values. The things I won't say yes to are things that just make me feel uncomfortable or don't align with my ethics or values as a person, as a human being. So I think that's how I approach, and I always look at the upside and the downside, the same way someone would in the investing space. What's the upside opportunity and what's the downside if I actually said no.
Okay, so when you do the upside and the downside, do you actually use a piece of paper and write all the positives and the negatives? Because that's what I do.
I use my gut, Elizabeth. I
Well, I
wish it
do that
was
too.
that
I do that
methodical.
too.
It's a lot of late nights staring at a ceiling, wondering if am I making the right decision.
I do that too. I don't sleep at night and my brain just keeps twirling around, thinking and thinking and overthinking. So I totally get that. But what does saying yes look like in your leadership style? Because you're the president of your company. What do you expect from your employees?
I think it's important to be a really great listener and to build trust. And I think the best way to build trust is to listen to the ideas of others, get their input, and take a chance on them the same way that many leaders took a chance on me throughout my career. So, I think that's where I am very excited to say yes to more opportunities than to say no, because I want my team to feel very empowered.
And I think that's really important when you have a really good team that surrounds you and helps you get through whatever projects you're managing that day, that week, that month, that year. there's that whole trust factor and the communication as well. And you both, not both, but your team and you need to be on the same page. And I think it's really important to have that trust in each other because that trust helps you grow and that trust helps them grow as well. And it's always a growing relationship. When you look at the team that you're working with on a daily basis, that relationship is fluid and it's growing. So there's a yes and a no to it on a regular basis. Please don't go away. We'll be right back with more Saying Yes to Opportunities. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. Today's episode, Just Say Yes to Opportunity. Um, what is the biggest lesson a yes has taught you? Because, it's different for everyone. And is there such a thing as a wrong yes?
So I think the biggest thing that a yes has taught me is just to be really resourceful. And going back to some of the things we've been talking about, saying yes before you're ready. Not suggesting that everyone should commit to saying yes to projects or assignments that are just completely out of their league, but just being able to find people in the network, talk to your colleagues about a new assignment and figure out who can support you, get some advice. It's really taught me a lot about growing my network, probably more than anything. And yeses that I or opportunities I don't like to say yes to or want to avoid. One, I've made some mistakes saying yes to the wrong investment decisions, so I'll go with that. I'm sure many have over the years, so that's definitely one. But I think saying yes to things that are short sighted. So when someone comes to me with an opportunity, for example, this may solve an interim, revenue gap. Let's say yes to this opportunity, but it doesn't align with the longer term vision. Those are yeses that I think we all need to be very careful about making.
And I like the fact that you talked about networking because I think that's really important. There's a lot of women that were focused on bringing up their children and would work all day and then go home and not go out networking, not have the opportunity to meet other women and learn from them and grow from them. And I find that now some of them are in positions where they're starting to grow their business and they're starting to network in their 50s, close to 60s. And they're having a really hard time trying to get into that networking. What would you say to them?
I think COVID really gave us a lot of opportunity to do some of that virtually. So the LinkedIn world is absolutely amazing, and the number of opportunities that have been brought forward to me through that community have been incredible. And I think it's just carving out time, and it's very deliberately thinking about these are the type of people I would really like to meet and like to connect with, and then talking to friends, looking up organizations that can make those connections for you. I find in particular women happen to be very serial networkers and connectors. And I know I personally do it. If someone comes to me saying, Alyssa, I really want some advice from someone in the legal community. I'm not a lawyer, but I know a lot of friends. I have a lot of friends who are lawyers. So being able to make that connection. And I think it always has to be mutual. If you can think about, if you can make a connection for two or three people, um, uh, uh, or if someone makes connections for you, you can do the same through your network as well.
I agree. I think it's got to be reciprocal and I think it's got to be a lot of give and take. And I think that's why a lot of women end up supporting each other so much more because you've got that opportunity to help each other out. But there are a lot of women that have a problem with decision making and they cannot make a decision. What advice would you give someone on the fence about a big opportunity?
I think in that circumstance, making sure you have a few people in your close network that you really, really trust. And I actually have a few women that I've gone to, and a few women who've come to me saying, Alyssa, I've been presented with an amazing career opportunity. Here's the pros and cons. Help me talk through this. I had a woman who I admire who reached out to me yesterday who's at a crossroads on something really pivotal in her life. And we had a really great conversation about it. And I've done the same with others. So I think just making sure you've got a solid network that you can go to and have those honest conversations, and not the type of conversations that are just trying to necessarily uplift you, the conversations that are going to be authentic and give you real, honest, raw feedback and advice.
Yeah, and I think that's important. I think being honest, raw, whether you like the answer or not, you need to be honest with that person, whether it's a positive or a negative, because they need to know. And I think that's important. We don't really have a lot of time to talk about this, but when we come back from the commercial break, I want to talk about, you know, what you believed in about your successes when you were in your 20s and that you no longer believe today, because times have changed. We have so many different ways that we run businesses now and the ways that we have meetings. And I guess things that happened that you believed in that were successes in your 20s no longer work right now. So please don't go away. We'll be back with more Alyssa Barry and basically saying yes to opportunities. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. I'm joined by Alyssa Barry, she's president of Alliance Advisors Investor Relations. And today's episode is Just Say Yes to Opportunity. Alyssa, what did you believe about success in your 20s that you no longer believe today?
Well, I think all of us believe that it's promotion and then salary and all these accolades is what you're always going for. And it's always the next thing, always the next thing. It can be very overwhelming and intimidating. And the other thing for me that I believed is I had to be someone that I wasn't, or I would have to change my style. I am a heart on my sleeve, lead with passion and my gut and my heart. And so I had an amazing coach. And throughout my entire career, I've had a corporate coach. Sometimes that coach was paid for by my employer, and sometimes I paid for it myself and didn't even tell my employer that I had a coach. Much similar to a therapist, but just really focusing
Yeah.
on coaching. And I asked her, I said, I want you to toughen me up. And so we go through our coaching sessions, and come session 3 or session 4, she says, Alyssa, have you figured it out yet? I said, no, tell me. This is so painful. She says, just be you. And it was the most expensive piece of advice I ever paid for, but it was the best piece of advice, is just be your authentic self. And I take that to heart, and I take that to work every single day.
And I think that's really important. Those are great words of wisdom. Just be your authentic self. Because a lot of people think they have to be someone else, or they have to impress people, or they have to do whatever, uh, to get to that next level. But authenticity is like the best winner in your life.
Oh, it definitely is. And Elizabeth, I'll kind of end on this, which is something I'm so proud of, and it's probably the that moment of manifestation I've always put in my mind and set towards what I want to achieve. I think about it. I try and bring it to life. So I told my dad when I was in university, said, Dad, I am going to work in New York City one day. I actually live today in Vancouver. But I sold my business last year to a New York City based company. And while I am sitting here in Vancouver today, I've got an office in our New York City office in Manhattan that overlooks the Hudson River. And the moment I walked into that office, I had tears in my eyes the very first time. So I've got this wonderful experience of playing in both geographies, but I dreamed it to life, and it all came true. And a lot of that was just saying yes. I said yes to selling my business. I said yes to a lot of opportunities throughout my career, and that's where it got me.
Okay, so let's go back now to manifesting, because a lot of people think, no, that'll never happen. I don't have enough money. I'm not smart enough. I don't have enough experience. There's so much of I don't have, I don't have, I don't have. And I agree with you. When I focus and I think about something that I want, I will focus on it and I will get it. It may take me a really, really, really long time, but it will happen for me. And I want to ask you words of wisdom for women that don't have that security in themselves to be able to manifest something. What would you say to them?
You absolutely have that within you. I was a single mom, divorced, not much left in my bank account. When I started my business, I took the greatest risk of my life in leaving my safe, secure corporate job that I'd worked really hard towards. I had just an absolute feeling I want to say my gut, but my entire being that this is what I was meant to do, and it worked, and it was exactly what I had dreamed up. I thought about it constantly. I talked to people about it. I wrote down what my aspirations were and how I was going to get there, and I did it. And it wasn't because I had the comfort and luxuries to be able to take a chance, have an investor back me. I took a chance on myself, and I invested in myself, which is something I'm very proud of.
Those are two important things that I want to end this show on. You invested in yourself and you believed in yourself. And thank you so much, Alyssa, for sharing your story. I know that you will help a lot of people out there. Thanks for being on Empowered.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
Alyssa's words of wisdom to you are: say yes before you're ready. Growth always meets you halfway. You don't need to have it all figured out. Just be brave enough to start. And when in doubt, choose presence over perfection. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski, and I'm here to empower you and make frugality fashionable. Thank you all for watching. See you again next week. Bye for now.